Hi everybody, it's Allison coming to you from my front living room as my studio glass doors. I have these beautiful 9-foot glass doors. Fortunately, they were made of tempered glass. And to make a long story short, I had a really cozy studio, which was sort of a newly renovated space. I decided to a while ago I was thinking about moving studios, but I thought I was just gonna really revamp my studio that I have. And so I was just about ready to start recording and do a studio tour. And one night around 11:30 p.m. when my husband and I were just getting settled to bed, we heard a really loud crash, and we heard, I feel like I should be painting when I'm telling this story. Anyway, I thought there was someone breaking in because I heard these two really loud bangs of glass, and it turns out that the tempered glass doors, these 9-foot doors, which are probably filled with about 7 to 8 feet of glass, had spontaneously combusted. And long story short, it was super scary. I had almost called the emergency line because I really thought there was someone in our home. And yeah, it was scary, but the doors are going to be replaced soon. And in the meantime, I don't have everything easily accessible, but it's a really great space, so I can't complain. And just to dive back into a video for today, I feel like I kind of want to re-record the video based on the way it's going right now. I feel a little out of sorts, but I'm not going to do that. I don't edit my videos, for those of you that follow me. And I just want to start by showing you what I'm working on. So I think that's the thing that relaxes me the most, is to share the inspiration that's sort of in my head and in my art practice currently, and also share, I get the most beautiful art mail from people all over the world. And I had a bit of a rough week last week. It's all good, but I had received this art in the mail, and I was so excited. So I just wanted to share this art, and this art is all the way from Nova Scotia, and this is by Diane Sheehy. And Diane keeps kind of a low profile, and she had just said that I had appeared on her random acts of kindness list. So there's something that some artists are part of, whether it's like artist trading cards or something called a RAK, capital R-A-K, a random act of kindness. And it's where you randomly send other artists or other people, other creatives or people in your life that may need a bump, artwork. And so this is one that she had done, which I really like. I have never painted books before, and I know that this was a lesson from Amanda Evanston, a wonderful artist out of Chicago. And a while back, I had taken her Insider Studio art membership, which was sort of a monthly membership, and she offers a huge library of incredible courses in everything from watercolor to mixed media to painting on fabric, and she has guest artists, and it's actually, it was one of the best investments I had given myself at the time. So we were still kind of in the thick of lockdown and just after the pandemic, and I really appreciated being part of her membership. And I was in there until up to most recently, and then I had to really zero in on where I was spending my money on online classes. And you know, I had really been with it for quite a while, and it's a monthly membership, so it is an investment. And I'm totally sidetracking, but in the Insider Studio, there is a group of beautiful artists all over the world, and we send each other racks, random acts of kindness. So this was a class that I know Amanda had done, or sorry, these are all classes. So all these words on the books that Diane had painted are classes from the membership. So painting pheasants, watercolor birds, a technique called murmuration, which was really interesting. I'd never heard of that. Hummingbird garden, blackbirds, French hens, moonlight puffin, outrageous ostriches, party birds and flamingo friends. So you can see there's quite a bit of humor as well in the group, and it's just a really beautiful community. So check out that silver edging on those books. That's really sweet. So that was Diane's piece, her mail, and I just want to show you, without showing any addresses, this is the mail envelope that I had received. And so isn't this cute, because she put rack random act of kindness down here, and she had painted this little, just trying to feel if this is collage. That is actually a little collage piece. I've been really into collage lately, and it's super thin, but how cute is that little bouquet? I mean, that's an awesome little artwork, which you could cut out and frame, or, you know, mount to a piece of thicker watercolor paper or a mini wood panel. So just an idea for how I could kind of reuse this cute little image that she put on the envelope. And then the other one prompted me to get some art, my own art, off the wall. And one of the classes that I had done when I was with the membership was about painting barns and also like farm landscapes. And this one, this was a really sweet note from Diane. And anyways, but this is her probably inspiration that came out of the barn class. And it's really, really sweet. And I love the texture. All of these little garden pieces are made with separate bits of collage. The pumpkins are super cute. And I almost see like a little bird down in that right-hand corner. And just really inspiring. This is just such a sweet little work to get in the mail. Again, something that I would love to frame. And it inspires me to create my own little landscapes with pieces of collage. So what came out of the class for me, there is varnish on this piece. So this is, I'll just show you, I have two really large wood panels, and so this, my father is a woodworker. He does the most beautiful woodwork, so handcrafted by Don McGregor. There's his stamp there, and I had titled this Patchwork Prairies, acrylic and wax on handcrafted wood panel, and by my father, Don McGregor. So that was in 2022. And up here I had said it's an original 16-inch round. And this is an example of, this was not artwork that I had mounted to panel. This I had painted the wood directly. So in other videos, you'll know that I do a lot of mounting my watercolor paper to panels. This one, instead of painting with that iridescent bronze that I often use, I use this light blue, and I still actually have this piece hanging. Even though it's tagged and ready to go, I have this piece hanging in my front hallway, so when people come in the front door, they can see it. And I kind of like the look of a round panel on a narrow wall with sort of a more rectangular piece underneath. And back to what I was talking about, when I had taken Amanda Evanston's classes, she had taught sort of how to do these barns. She had a really easy way of teaching how to draw them. And I did these little sheep, which I love. And another thing that she had taught, which for some reason, it was so basic the way she teaches it, but I had this barrier of painting and drawing sheep. And so here they are, and they're so cute. They're so textured. I used a bit of a puffy paint that I had at home. And I just love the idea of like patchwork, landscapes, probably because I'm in Alberta and our road trips lead us to the prairies where there's just these huge fields. Some of them are so beautiful and bright and seem to go on forever. So that's how I got the title there. And then this was the other one. I thought I may as well show you the work. Now she doesn't teach, this is sort of her painting technique that I took and put on a wood panel. Now this was watercolor paper that I had done. You can see a bit of my own technique in here with that reticulated pattern up here in the sky. And with this particular painting, I had titled it Eye on the Sky. And my mom is always saying, keep your eye on the sky. Her father was a navigator, and, you know, just his life experience flying and being part of the war, World War II, and working for the Ferry Command and the Atlantic Ferry Command. And anyway, he was a navigator and had a huge influence on her life. And anyways, I'm totally going off track, but I see an eye that had just appeared while I was using my acrylic inks and painting this piece, and it just reminds me, eye on the sky. This is a very dark, moody sky, almost as though there's a storm coming, and then the little sheep. And again, this was inspired by Amanda Evanston's class. So you can see my own little flare of the birds and the golden moon. And I had painted the sides, the edges, in black. So this is watercolor paper mounted, aka glued, to this round wood panel. And sort of that's how it looks. So while I was on the topic of Amanda Evanston, I also want to show you what I've been up to. So we will do a little bit of painting today. I'm gonna just see if I need to zoom out. Oh, no, zoomed you in. Okay, these are really big paintings that I'm showing you here. This is a painting of my cat that I had titled Samson, and Samson was my best friend's cat growing up. And I remember when I would go to her house, Angela, if you're listening, Samson, who was a really furry Persian cat, would come and sleep on my head. And I believe I had, you know, allergies to cats at the time, and I would sort of try and avoid him getting too close, and then I would wake up and he would be like basically sleeping on my head on my sleeping bag. So I thought that he reminded me so much of Samson, her cat. And this is a canvas print. So this was originally done on paper, and then I put some sort of puppy type acrylic paint over top, just as a way to embellish. You can see I added some sheen and the gold. So this is considered an embellished canvas print. And oh, and one thing I wanted to show you, I used a fish stencil in the original. So you can just see, I made it barely visible, these little fish, these little, you can see the fish eyes in here and some of the texture. And I put that all around, almost like wallpaper, in the background of this cat. So the original had sold. I did a collection called Moments of Pause. So not just pause in the moment, but cat pause, animal pause, PAWS. And so this is Samson, 20 by 16 inches. This is pigment ink on lye canvas. So this is called a certificate of authenticity. And then down here you can see Art Magic was my printer, and he put my website on here in my signature, which is really cool. So this is just an embellished canvas print, but the reason I'm showing you this is because, let's just see, this is a class I had done through Amanda Evanston. So if you're interested in painting whimsical animals and cats and learning some of her amazing sort of reductionistic method painting style, you might want to check her out. So in the background, and this was just something I kind of took on myself once I got my cat drawn and painted. So this is another embellished canvas print. And you can see the fish stencil in the background. So that was just something that I wanted to add in addition, that made it feel more authentic to my own style. And this is Milo. This is a cat that used to come visit me when I had my own condo many years ago when I was working as a nurse, and he would just appear at my doorstep, and he looked like a cartoon cat. He had so much character. And so this is Milo. And then you have This is Bernie the mouser. And I did not know any cats named Bernie, but I just thought he looked like a Bernie. And really cool how the fish stenciling had come out around Bernie. So you can see it over here. And again, it's embellished. So paint was added to this print. And then last but not least, you have Miss Oak. So this is a cat that I had named after my rescue dog, who I will see if I can just show you. It might be really tricky. Just gonna see. There he is. See if I can, whoops, move my chair. I have so much stuff here. There he is. Can you see him in the upper corner? You can see all of his toys and my toys, and I have a whole bunch of art stuff out here as I am getting my new door installed by my art room. So I have supplies absolutely everywhere, works in progress and my son's supplies. But yeah, that's Oakley. And there was something about this little cat that made me think of Oakley. And so I called this cat Miss Oak. And there's a bit more of a story to that, but just to keep this short. So all of these cats were inspired by Amanda Evanston's class through her membership. And I am going to be using some of them because Oakley and I are going to be in a photo shoot coming up for What Women and Where Women Create magazine. Hopefully you can hear me okay as I'm moving around. But yeah, I'm really excited because I'm going to be writing an article, and then Oakley's going to be kind of the star of the show. I'm just going to zoom you down, and it's probably going to be mostly photography focused on my floor of my home and my art studio, and it's going to be all about how Oakley is my studio buddy and has kind of helped me as an artist. So it's called Pet Tales, and if any of you know the magazine What Women or Where Women Create, which you can get at Indigo chapters here in Canada, I believe it's throughout the US too. I'm not sure what bookstores, but it's a really great magazine that they, I believe, have online now too. But Oakley and I are preparing for our photo shoot. So tomorrow I'm going to get this new glass door installed, the one that combusted, and it was in, like, the glass was everywhere. I'm still finding glass. The glass actually penetrated through my watercolor paper. So this is Arches 140 pound. And if you can believe it, I had holes of glass that went through the paper. So fortunately, nobody was hurt. And they said it was really random. It's very rare that that glass combusts spontaneously. So there's some type of, they believe it was because there wasn't a proper primer put on the wood that held the glass. Anyways, so lots of change for me. I have decided to stay in my studio, in my home. Okay, well, you know what? I'm just gonna paint while I talk, just so you all can follow along with me. And I'm gonna talk about these in a minute, which are sort of some works that I have been working on. So just to quickly switch gears, I'm going to get out my round number 12 watercolor brush by Princeton Art Brush & Co. And I just really like this size brush. I was trying to think of where to start my video because I've been out of sorts for a couple weeks and getting back into a routine. Oh, and I put this out. This is my, this is a new box of my art poetry cards. And these arrived just a couple weeks ago. And they're basically the exact same cards that I have been, how do you say, I sold out of all of the cards with my first order. So I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody that's purchased these cards. And if these cards aren't in your budget, I do like to go through these cards and sometimes use them as inspiration for my YouTube videos. So for those of you that are new to my channel, this is my art poetry for insights and inspiration art deck. And this is a new box, so it's a little bit stiff opening it up. And it's sort of like a tuck box, and I am just so pleased to, I just am still floored that I had sold out of 528 boxes of these cards to you all over the world, and I'm just so happy. So so I have more. For those of you that were on my wait list, these cards have now been restocked on my website, alisondurant.com, which I'll link, and they are still the same price point, which is $60 Canadian. So for those of you that are in the US, when you see the pricing, it's actually only it's $48 with the conversion. I'd have to check, but it's a little bit, how do I say, with shipping, it's about $78 Canadian to the US. And so I'm just trying to think. I was going to go through the other countries and the cost, but it's, I believe the one to Ireland the other day was $28 shipping is probably more the highest, but it's a very heavy deck. So I've kept the price point the same from when I first had put these cards on my website. And this is not, I never do a really fancy shuffle. These are super stiff, so just gonna kind of move them around a little bit and just split the deck. And this is the card of the day. And it's so funny, I've never chosen this card out of all my art videos, and out of all the times I've pulled a card myself, this has never come up for me, which is really interesting. So grow in nature, and this little painting has so much greenery, and I'm a huge promoter of getting outside every day if you can, and spending as much time outside as you can, just because they say even just being around greenery and fresh air, Mother Nature, it's so important for our mental health. So I had this grow in nature. And I was also thinking of the play on words, growing as a human being, and, seeing, are there ways we can sort of better ourselves for, what's going on in our life, and just striving to kind of be the best human that we can be, and supporting those around us. And this was a little art poetry painting that I think I was trying to use green with analogous colors, so lots of different shades or hues, colors of green, as many as I could. My palette was a bit limited at the time, and I just couldn't help myself. I had to use that neon pink jelly roll, so that bright pink in there for the detail. And just thinking about getting back into nature. Sometimes it's really hard to get outside. Oakley and I just went for a walk in the rain, so even on the days when it's wet or snowy, even if it's just for 5 or 10 minutes, it's so beneficial. So I also hope to paint outside more, and that's something that I really want to get better at, is just taking a travel set outside with me and maybe a notebook before our Calgary winters hit. And okay, one thing, I like to respond to questions that come in, and sometimes by email it's harder to answer, and so I may as well, I'm just gonna do a little swatch of this tiny little tin. Now I covered this up with one of my stickers, and it's really on there, but this is the company Stoneground Paint Co. From Saskatchewan, so it's a wonderful Canadian watercolor and gouache company. And someone had just said, can you please go through the colors and swatch them out? They wanted to invest in this company, but just really wanted to kind of see those colors without me painting with them, which I'd be happy to do. I don't remember the name of this specific palette, but there are 14 colors in here, which I can share with you. And the lighting, it's really dark today. I have some studio lighting coming from behind, just because of how I'm set up in my temporary living space. But I think what's important is you can really get the idea of the colors. And I also had a question. Where are we? So these are my Kuretake paints. These are a Japanese watercolor that tends to be more opaque. So when it goes on, it's less transparent than traditional watercolor. I love these, and I had at one point separated some colors that I was using for a project, and someone had asked where I got this beautiful palette, this wooden palette, and this was made by my father. And just see if he has the stamp. Yeah, he did. I'm just gonna flip it over to show you. Actually, I might not flip it over. He has his stamp on the back, but unfortunately he doesn't sell these. But I've had so many people saying, where did you get those Kuretake wood palettes? And they were handcrafted by my dad, so he doesn't sell them. And just a shout out to my dad and his amazing support of my art practice and helping me stay organized and stylish. So back to the Stoneground Paint Co. So I just have a really large piece of 140-pound watercolor paper in front of me, and I'm gonna zoom in. Oops. There we go. I'm gonna zoom in and just see how to improve the lighting here. So just bear with me. Okay, I'm getting ready for a photo shoot here, so I'm gonna have to have really good lighting. I have the most vibrant photography lights here right now, so that's how dark it is in Calgary today. So I have my 140-pound Canson watercolor paper. Sometimes they call it mixed media paper, same thing. As long as it's 140 pounds weight, it's a really great quality. And I'm just gonna do, just trying to decide how I wanna go about this, but I see I missed the Titan Buff. That would have been the place to start because that's the lightest color. But I'm gonna go with Gamboge, which is this one here. And I also wanted to say, when you get new watercolors, right now I just want to paint a painting, so I have to hold myself back. But this is Gamboge, Gamboge, by Stoneground Paint Co. So I put on a lot of pigment, but of course, you know, the more water you add, the lighter the color, right? So as I continue to get the pigment off my brush, you can just see how light it can go. It's a really, really beautiful kind of lemony mustard color. And then I'm gonna not, normally I don't use a paper towel between colors, but just because this is a swatching video, I'm gonna go to Pozzuli Earth Red, which is next door to Gamboge, Pozzuli Earth Red. And this is a really nice kind of grounding, rusty, could be used as sort of a neutral color. And of course, oops, I dropped into the Gamboge and that's okay. So I'm adding some more pigment just to show you how deep that can be. And that's a really beautiful color. And then we have Mayan Red next door. At least I think so. Let's just see. Oh, yeah, that is Mayan Red. It looked a bit purplish in my tin here. So Mayan as in the Mayan Riviera, M-A-Y-A-N. I think that's right. That's a really, really nice, deep, rusty red. Really great for fall. These are all such beautiful fall colors. And then one favorite of mine is this quinacridone red gold. So actually a favorite is the quinacridone gold. So this is quinacridone red gold. So it has more of an orangish red tinge compared to just plain quinacridone gold. I really like golden fluid acrylics, quinacridone gold. It's a very beautiful color. And I'm gonna just go into Titan Buff. So Titan Buff is a great neutral. It's almost like a grayish, creamy white. And so we'll just kind of try and put this in the same place it is in my tin here. And I didn't pick these colors to go in the tin. So Stoneground Paint Co had advertised this little palette on their website, and these are colors when I hadn't discovered these guys yet. I believe I had purchased these online, but being in Calgary, we also have these paints available at, just gonna move my water over here so you don't have to look at my arm every time. Kensington Art Supply has individual watercolors from Stoneground Paint Co. They also have gouache tins, the 24 set, and they might have this tin. I just can't recall if I bought it in person or online. And so next up is Scarlet that I'm dipping into. And I've never been one to enjoy swatching, doing swatching videos. I figured it wouldn't be very interesting to you all. And there's something so calming about doing this today. And I'm really enjoying it. So I'm putting a lot of pigment for this Scarlet. It's a really, really beautiful, transparent red, although I would say it's maybe a bit less pigment, at least this particular pan, which I believe probably, depending on the processing, they can all have a bit more variety with how much pigment versus how much filler or binder, I suppose you call it. So every paint company would use the pigments and then also a binder, you know, for instance, honey or guar gum, or I'm not too familiar with how to make watercolor, but it maybe has less pigment and more binder, whereas these ones are very pigmented. And then definitely a favorite paint, not just watercolor, is quinacridone magenta. So this next color here, I really have this urge to like blend these colors together. But I'm gonna hold myself back and behave myself because this is a swatch exercise. But that color is just like amazing. I can blend it over here because this was kind of my play area, so. Going rogue. And then next to quinacridone magenta, I have manganese violet. This is sort of a deeper violet purple. So beautiful. Right now I'm dying to mix this with the gamboge. I love mixing purple and yellow, the two primary colors, to make a more neutral, muddy, earthy color. So let's do it. I'm just gonna do it right over here. So I'm just gonna add that gorgeous, gorgeous purple. And then dip into the gamboge in almost equal parts. And just like checking out, it's like a brown, but it's really, really pretty. I'll add a bit more purple. See how I just dip right into my pan and I mix it right on there. I just don't care about keeping my colors clean. So yeah, that would be like a good kind of fall grounding color, like a neutral, besides some of the more vibrant colors. And you know, if you added a little Titan Buff to that, it would be sort of a lighter, more opaque, kind of a grayish, greenish color. So a color that wouldn't speak to me if I was like out shopping, but a color that I would create accidentally by maybe mixing my watercolors on the paper and then discovering it as like a happy accident. And so this blue is really gorgeous, this deep, kind of a royal midnight blue. It's called Indanthrone blue. Indanthrone. Never sure if I'm pronouncing these right, but IN and then Danthrone, DANTHRONE, blue. So really, really beautiful. And I don't use a lot of blues in my work. At least I don't think I do. Maybe I do. Sometimes I say that and then I walk around the house and I'll look at my walls and be like, oh, well, that painting has a lot of blue. So I am gonna go into Prussian blue, which is definitely a favorite color. And I thought it would be a bit darker, more of a navy. So this is interesting because I have Prussian blue in golden fluid acrylics and it's way more dark, but that's likely because it's just so highly pigmented. Whereas this Indanthrone is actually darker than this blue. So we're gonna jump to Cobalt Aquamarine. I had an undiagnosed allergy for years. Really terrible breakouts, rashes, quite sick, especially during my pregnancy. And I went for allergy testing by a really great specialist here in Calgary. And it turns out that I have maybe not like a severe allergy to cobalt, but enough that I'd be quite happy to use up that color. And sometimes I wear gloves just to make sure I don't get it on my skin. Cobalt is also in brown hair dyes. And I often, when I would get my hair highlighted or have low lights, so browns put in, I would get really terrible breakouts around my scalp and couldn't figure out what was going on. And it turns out that cobalt is an ingredient in a lot of brown hair dyes. So if you look for the capital CO, and then there's usually a number, that means the ingredient is cobalt. And it's also in some cleaning products, so I tend to stay as natural as possible in terms of cleaning products. Right now I'm doing Hooker's Green, which is a really, really lovely neutral green, almost like a grayish green. And I'm getting a lot of pigment, but it's fairly transparent. So as far as, I mean, the quality of these watercolors is wonderful. I can just see some colors, like for instance, scarlet. I was hoping it might be a bit more pigmented. I know red is a tough color to make though in terms of good paints, good pigments coming from that red color. But I'm really happy with the quality of the other ones. And Roman black is quite light as well, even though it's black. It's like a barely there kind of transparent black, which can be a really, really good, cool neutral or a way of tinting some of the, tinting your watercolors or layering with that would be really cool. So waiting for some watercolor to dry and then kind of going over top of it and seeing what you get and really enjoying that neutral kind of next to these brights. Like that's just awesome. Okay, and then this one, Vivianite, and it's like a grayish blue. I'm really glad someone asked me about this palette because it's just one that I don't use often, but I think what we could do is just do a quick little background painting today with it. So that's a really beautiful Vivianite. It's sort of like a grayish, almost has like a hint of a teal. So, so pretty. And again, that would be really good for layering over top of dried watercolor. So that's not a great example here, not a great demo because that gamboge is still wet. And so yeah, that is this 14 pan set of Stoneground Paint Co. So again, there's Titan Buff, Gamboge, Patchouli Earth Red, Mayan Red. I should probably be putting this down here. So how do we go? Gamboge, Patchouli Earth Red, Mayan Red, Quinacridone Gold, Scarlet, Quinacridone Magenta, Manganese Violet, Indanthrone Blue, Prussian Blue, Cobalt. which I should say caution cobalt, aquamarine, and it is a beautiful color, hooker's green, Roman black, and Vivianite. So, and I have to say, I'm not big into color theory and color mixing. I'd love to be better at it. I mean, I know the basics, but this would be a really great palette because you have your primary colors, you have your red, your blue, and your yellow, and mixing those with something like, you could use the Titan Buff to like tint it, so to lighten up those colors. And again, you can create secondary colors here, and using like a darker one, I would say this Indothrone blue would be a great way of shading some of the colors. So I won't get into too much depth with that, but I'm gonna flip this paper around and do a quick painting. I just have a desire to drip these down right now, but I'm gonna hold back for a sec. And I just wanted to show you what I'm working on. So without getting these paintings in the wet paint, I'm gonna zoom you back out. Whoops. So many shadows today. I'm sorry about that. This was a really loose floral that I had done, which I will probably demo in some of my upcoming videos because it was really easy. It just came to me. Could I probably paint the same thing again? I would say not, but I did use kind of a certain technique, I almost feel like as artists, we have maps in our head. We have steps that we tend to do that could almost be written down as a mathematical formula. So although this is very intuitive, I was slightly thinking about the size of the brush strokes, the colors, what I wanted lower in the painting versus at the top, especially with this one. I did 3 of these at the same time in the same day, and I had sold the other one recently that looked a bit like this, but this one turned out, I felt like it just needed more. And I've been so into, well, because we've had such great weather here in Calgary, and it's, you know, such a short time that we have these beautiful florals and gardens, and before the snow comes, I had been really into, I have a jelly plate. So I have a jelly plate, so spelt Gelli, that I was making handmade papers on. So not the jelly plate that you make. I'm vegetarian and I'm really trying to go vegan entirely, and a huge animal lover. So the homemade jelly plates use gelatin from animal products, but the ones from the company jelly plate, I have to double check, but I'm pretty sure that they're totally synthetic. There's no animal products used, which I'm really happy about. And again, sidetracking, but I've been loving making handmade papers, and I came across using deli paper. And so I will do a video on this at some point in time, but this is like a deli paper, which is stronger than a tissue paper. And you can see, I don't know how well, but the leaf got attached to, like, the leaf that I had picked outside and brought in while it was fresh. I was playing around with some inks on my jelly plate and making these monoprints, and the brayer that I was rolling with got the leaf stuck on it, and it created this symmetric, well, a pattern that was so beautiful. And I saw this and I really wanted to add in something different. I've been super into collage, but I wanted collage that you're like, it's barely there, that you just wouldn't really even know it's there. And so when I feel this, I don't even feel the edges of that collage. So it's quite similar to Diane's little random act of kindness envelope. When I feel it, it's so thin, and I think that's a really neat effect because it has depth, and it's interesting. And having a real botanical I wish it wasn't raining out today because I was really wanting to go out and pick some leaves and florals and really bring nature into this video. So I'm gonna hold on to that thought. But this was deli paper. I cut out that pattern. Part of me just didn't want to touch this. I'm like, this could be a whole painting background, right? But I had cut out the 2 leaves here and broke up that pattern, and I used a really great thin matte medium. It's one that has a bit of an odor. I'm just looking for it. It's a golden matte medium, and I have to do it outside, but isn't this just a neat effect? Then up here I did tissue paper, so that light blue. And then down here was another botanical. I think it was the same day, probably the same leaf, when I was making these painted papers, and I love that contrast. And you know, if I was to look at this in, say, I don't know, like you know, if someone was selling their work and I was like trying to figure out how did they do that, this would stump me, I think, because there is a way even of using your watercolor and blending in probably over top of the deli paper. So I might actually just see if I can do that. So again, this is deli paper that I cut out into the shape of a leaf. And would the deli paper absorb? This is my Stoneground Paint Co. Wow, I am not affiliated with them. I'm not affiliated with anyone. I don't promote anyone, but today these guys are popping up. This is their 24 gouache palette, and I snuck in this paint, which is not, this is a Ukrainian company, Rosa. And I love that kind of, this coral color. And I'm gonna just see, really, without putting too much on here, I wonder if it would absorb into the deli paper, just so the edges look even less that they were painted. I don't know. Maybe I don't want to do that. Let's just see. Okay, so that was subtle. I just want to make sure I don't lift up any of the existing coral. So maybe I blended it a bit more. Maybe not, but that was a good little experiment. So down in this one as well. I think that's kind of cool. And I could have trimmed the deli paper even closer to the outside of this image. And anyways, but this is thick. This is paper that I cut up from an old painting. So that green is thicker paper. That's not deli paper. This is deli paper, this pink floral. And this one up here, this yellow transparent, this is deli paper. And this is a leaf from outside that I had again rolled paint over. You can just see the outline. That is deli paper. And that is, I'm trying to think of the name. There's a certain name for when you get the outline versus you get the image itself. I'm just kind of drawing a blank, so I'm gonna move on. And I thought what we could do is you can just ignore this little side painting. And I'm gonna just paint an art poetry painting with just these colors. So maybe this is distracting for you all, so I could just tear off. Usually it doesn't work out that well, but I'll just tear that off. And then I'll just put these swatch colors right here, just in case I need to refer to them at all. Just, oops, oh dear, I forgot that that was wet. Just a moment. So much for a clean new less distracting page. Okay, not a big deal. That will be painted over soon enough. Wow, it's dark today. I'm gonna just quickly zoom you in. And what I want you to do, if you haven't painted with me before, just try to think of this as an exercise in relaxation, meditation, picking a color that you're craving. So if you were looking at, you know, these colors of, say, a new watercolor set that you have, what color is speaking to you the most? And for me, I'm loving that quinacridone magenta. I often choose that color, but I want to keep in mind the neutrals. So when you paint with bright colors, at least the way I paint, I love to incorporate neutrals like white or black or this Titan buff or you know, a gray, even like this Hooker's green. This one is a bit of a neutral as well. So something that will just almost, it tones down the bright color and it makes it stand out even more. Whereas when I first started painting, all of my work was really bright and I never bothered to add in those neutral colors next to the bright colors. And that's okay. I mean, there's art for everybody, and I think a lot of those paintings probably sold, and maybe some I actually kept because I really liked how bright they were. But there's also a calming effect that comes with adding neutrals beside the bright. And you can kind of see that with these two colors here, the cobalt aquamarine and the Hooker's green. If you had like a viewfinder and you just kind of looked at that, because you know, right, these are pretty bright down here, but if you just looked at the bright next to the neutral, you can see that it makes the bright stand out even more. I suppose another way would be, you know, it's so bright down here, but this neutral up here almost calms the painting down. Saying this area is quite bright, but adding that color calms it down. And then this bright yellow here, this gray really calms down that area. So in terms of like, whoops, sorry Oakley, it's okay. He always jumps up because he's a rescue. He's always startled by noises. I'm just gonna start with my favorite color. And then I'm gonna dip into, you could put a neutral color beside this. I mean, mine kind of looks like a cloud. I just basically scrub the color on that I love. And while it's still wet, you know, I use a lot of pigment and a lot of water. Many of you know that on the side, I like to clean my brush just to be able to get a feel for the shape of my paintbrush and also not lose that beautiful pigment. So I'm creating the background of another painting over here. And then when I clean my brush off, I don't lose all of that color. And this is, I'm gonna just drop in a bit more water. You can get really beautiful blooms when you clean your brush off of pigment and then drop in water. So it may be hard to see, but that's flowering out into a bit of a bloom. And then I am going to bring in this Pozzoli Earth Red and touch the wet part and pull it upward and out. And that's just sort of my style of creating almost like a garden in the sky. And you might not feel like these shapes at all. If this is just a meditative exercise, you just kind of want to put paint down. And normally this is more centered. This is very much sort of slanted. And I'm gonna leave this color on my brush and dip into the quinacridone red gold. And maybe, whoops, that is definitely a lot of pigment, really high quality there. I'm gonna dip into some water and just pull out some of that pigment. And I'm just really seeing these fall colors. I'm gonna go into the gamboge, this yellow. Right now these are all pretty bright, right? So let me just think. I'll add a little bit up here and maybe blend those two together. The more I'm painting with these Stoneground paints, the more I'm realizing the quality of them. Just gonna add some yellow, that gamboge down there. And then maybe it's time to add in some neutrals. So the Titan Buff is a really great neutral, and I'm just gonna go in where the painting is still wet, and just trying to decide, and just pull this over and kind of go upwards so the quinacridone gold doesn't take over all of the Titan Buff. I'm letting the blending and the bleeding happen, and I might just add the Titan Buff in another area up here. This is quite bright, this quinacridone, and I'm kind of pulling the brush, scrubbing upward, and I'm just not judging this, and I'm kind of trying to think. I might use this Hooker's Green, and I might mix it. 1, 2. I already have a lot of green on this palette, but I might just put a little of that Hooker's Green and then mix it with, trying to decide, maybe I'll mix it with that Vivinite. Oh, there's my timer. I can't believe it's been almost an hour. So I'm just gonna mix the Hooker's Green and the Vivinite, and I'll be right back. I still am setting my old school timer because that's just what works for me. And okay, so Hooker's Green and the Vivinite. It's like a pretty awesome bluish greenish gray. And this is kind of drying pretty quick. And I love to paint while things are still wet because it kind of gets me a little bit more out of my head, and I have less control when things are still wet. And I'm gonna add quite a bit of that down here. And I might add it in up in this area and pull up some of that quinacridone. I almost feel like this looks like a beautiful sunrise coming out here. And maybe I'll be bold and add a little bit of that Indothrone blue. Maybe just adding it in. I'm trying to decide, maybe over here. And I'll maybe add a little bit down here. Let it blend in. And I'm really actually liking it with the quinacridone red gold. So that's sort of a discovery. So I'm gonna add some of that quinacridone red gold, which is so pigmented. And I'm gonna add that Indothrone blue. That color is an amazing neutral, wicked. I just kind of want to add lots of that in over top of this blue. I don't mind the brighter blue, but I think what I'm feeling today is more of that quinacridone red gold. That's something I never would have done, was mix those two colors. And that Indothrone blue. I love that color. That's amazing. It's like a brownish grayish neutral. Really beautiful. And so I'm just putting colors in, moving things around while things are wet. And when I'm painting, I'm also being mindful of letting the watercolor do its job. So trying not to control it and trying not to let it dry right away, and working fast. So I have decided that this is a composition. I'm gonna have to just bring you back out. This is a composition that I really like, and I can wait for it to dry and add mark making in here. I can also take anything water soluble and use that to do some mark making. Sometimes I like to be really bold. These are Stabilo Woodies. These are water-soluble wax crayons. And my son is 6, we both use these. We love these. They're amazing. And I like them because when they're activated with water, they're very creamy. And it's like a watercolor in a stick. And I really like this color. And it's really hard. I have paint on top of this, so I think it's number 38, maybe. Oh, no, 880. It's like a peachy color. And I like to really loosely hold it and just run through the watercolor and then respond to it. Did I like that? Would I want to add more? I really want to do sort of something bright, and I love this kind of minty, it's almost like a phthalo green, and just adding it really loosely in this space between my quinacridone red gold and the Titan buff, and then maybe adding it in here. I have some paintings where I kind of like to fill in those little gaps with a color. And then you're also just playing and you're discovering what you like, and see how vibrant those colors are. When it dries, you can smudge these with your finger or a sponge, which is a lot of fun. You can remove the color if you don't like it. So just by using a wet paper towel or wetting your paintbrush and kind of blending it out. So I'm trying to think of, you could do black mark making. See, now because that paint is still wet, just check out how vibrant that black mark is. I'm gonna add it up here just for a repeated design element, which is a principle of art. And I like to go off the page. This is sort of a darker turquoise, kind of feeling like I could put in maybe, I don't know, like these long narrow marks fairly close together, and then responding to it. Do I like it over that gamboge color, that yellowish color? You know, taking a step back, kind of squinting my eyes, looking at it at a distance. How do I like it? Do I like the way it blends with this particular Nico Azul red gold? Do I even like that mark? You can see I'm smudging with my hand down here, but I don't care because this is just play. The beauty of this is if you're using high quality 140-pound paper, now this is buckling a little bit, so I could go higher quality, but you can flatten this, and the beauty is you can go over top of this with an acrylic paint when it's dry, just remembering that you might pick up some of the color because this is water-soluble material. Watercolors, water-soluble, you know, but keeping those things in mind. When this dries, you could do collage over top, so the possibilities are endless with art. I'm just seeing this really beautiful purple Stabilo and deciding, do I want to do anything with that? Maybe adding some different kind of mark making, like really loose kind of circles, and just discovering what feels good, what do I enjoy working with, what colors. When you're going over top of wet paint, it's a different feel. Now these Stabilo watercolor crayons are wonderful because you can leave them when you first put them on, or you can activate them with water. So right now I'm kind of activating them and filling them in a little bit. And so that's a different look. You can take, take one and fill in the circle with, say, another color. I like these for kids because of dexterity, and they're watercolor, they're non-toxic. So this is pretty wild. This is usually my mark making style over top is very dainty, although just to demo with the dark lighting today, I thought this is a good place to start, is just showing you, introducing you to these Stabilo Woodies for those of you that haven't been following me, and just showing you sort of what it looks like going through wet paint and what kind of neat effects. So that effect, is really, really cool. That effect right here with the white crayon going through some of the magenta, and just planes. So grabbing a sheet of paper, remember it's just paper. It's just, these are a bit of an investment, but all you need is a few. Some art stores you can buy just a couple. You can buy a small set. And you can buy water-soluble crayons individually. So the Colour Caran crayons are also great. They're a Swiss crayon and they are water-soluble. They're smaller than these ones. I'm just gonna see if I have them. So this is barely there. This is broken because I love this color. I do not use this color as much. So the Neocolor by Colour Caran, the Neocolor 2 Aquarels. These are the water-soluble crayons. And again, they're just like a smaller version of the Stabilo Woodies, made by a really great Swiss company. These are great to travel with if you don't want to travel with a watercolor set. You can just buy a couple colors that you love, and they're blendable. And my timer went off, so I'm gonna have to get on with my day and make sure I'm getting ahead of traffic when I pick up my son from school. So this is a bit of a big mess, but it was super relaxing. And for the purpose of the video today, I wanted to share with you all this palette by the Stoneground Paint Co, and just how these colors are amazing. All you need is really 3 or 4 colors. I would say 5. If you could get a red, blue, and yellow, and say a white and a dark, like a dark black, a Prussian blue, the Indothrone blue. You can make so many colors from just that small set of 5. Making sure though, if you're gonna invest in some watercolors, making sure your favorite color is in there, no matter how you think you might mix it. The quinacridone magenta, that would be the color of my choice. If that's the only color I could have in a set, it would be the pink, because it just lights up that area of my brain that makes me happy. And so, yeah, I will link these materials in my description, and I will hopefully be doing more videos soon. I'm going to be doing that photo shoot for the magazine in the next few weeks, and it will be published in spring of 2025. So it's a lot of work right now, and it feels like a long wait, but I'll keep you up to date on that. And I'll just, I've already got watercolor paint on my art poetry box. Whoops. Doesn't stay clean long, does it? I have to get it off right now. Anyways, yes, my art poetry deck is now available. I've restocked my website, and I will link that as well. And if you have any questions, let me know. I have been shipping worldwide. If you are in certain areas, it does take a lot longer. For instance, Mexico, I shipped to Israel, and a few areas where there's a lot of things going on in the world, and so just know it can take time based on world events and where you're located. But I really appreciate all the support, so I'll see you soon, and thanks so much.